Hello and welcome to episode 8, where we take a deep dive into working and paying taxes in Spain. So a really big topic for anyone who's wanting to move but also wants to keep earning. I'm joined today by Cathy White, founder and director of CEW Communications, who relocated to Barcelona with her husband in 2019. Welcome to the podcast. It's so nice to have you here.
Thanks, Beth. Pleasure to be here.
Just to get a sense of how different is the working day for you now in Spain, because you came from London, different pace perhaps, but what things have changed? What's it like?
Well, the real beauty for me with being here is I've got flexibility that I couldn't afford in London. So I'm my own boss, I do my own thing. And while I typically still work a UK 9 to 5, so 10 to 6 in Spain, I'm able to kind of bookend my day in a much nicer way. So I'm not commuting anywhere. I get to do my exercise. I read lots of books. I get to enjoy the sunshine. This morning, I started my day by running down to the Arc de Triomphe, the Parc de la Citadella, meeting a friend for a coffee, cuddling lots of dogs. It was delightful. And that was something that I wouldn't necessarily get in London. You know, you're always kind of worried about the commute first thing in the morning, the smelly armpit that's in your face, anything that's kind of part and parcel of being on the tube or on the bus. And I don't miss that at all. So for me, the big thing is just being able to slow down when I need to and having a bit more control over what my day looks like.
Yeah, totally. And I think people are going to listen and feel really jealous. I wanted to ask about minimum wage and salary differences, perhaps even salaried if you're not an hourly worker. Cathy, have you noticed anything like that so far? I mean, I know it's slightly different for you because you're self-employed, but do you know if salary expectations in your field, for example, are the same in Spain, less, more?
So I think typically it's less, but then everything is less. So it all balances out. You know, the one big difference for us, and you know, I'm very lucky. I'm still earning what I was earning in the UK, but now doing it in Spain and getting that little benefit with things being a bit cheaper here, is coming from London to Barcelona. Barcelona is still one of the most expensive cities in Spain, but compared to London, it's cheaper. So, you know, I've moved here and it's a delight. For others coming here, it's a little bit of an issue sometimes. But generally, I'd say you earn a little bit less, but then everything else cumulatively is much cheaper.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Cathy, your situation's actually really interesting because it's changed so much since you moved. So you went in 2019. This was a year and a half before Brexit, roughly. You were a registered company in the UK. And how were you making that work? Because were you over there permanently? Were you coming back and forth? What did it look like for you prior pandemic?
Yeah, so pre-pandemic, I was flying back to London for 3 days a week.
Wow.
So I was on the really fun 7:05 a.m. flight out from Barcelona airport on a Monday morning. And then I was normally flying back on Wednesday evening. So I'd have 3 days in the office, be able to do everything with the team. And then I'd just kind of work from home for 2 days in Spain, have the weekend and then repeat. And I was doing that 3 weeks out of the month, roughly.
Yeah, okay. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's awful to say, but a silver lining of the pandemic is that I don't have to be on a plane twice a week because it was very exhausting. The reason I did that was initially I was very fearful of how clients would react to me moving to Spain and what that would mean for the business. Now, the pandemic has obviously forced my hand with all of these different situations, and everyone now is far more used to than they were before remote working and working with people all around the world. So it's worked to the benefit of my business. Now, I'm in the situation at the moment where I'm looking at what I do from a tax perspective. So I'm literally like listening to everything Laura says and being like, oh, okay, right. This is what I need to look into. At the moment, I'm still operating the business from the UK. I ideally do not want to move the business to Spain as a business entity. How I navigate that, I'm not sure. I think I may have to go down the autonomo route and effectively contract myself to my own business. I'm not sure. I have a call with someone tomorrow to figure out all of this. It's been an interesting year. I was hoping that at some point I'd be able to go back to the UK at various different points, even for a week or 2 week stints for work reasons, but I've not needed to, because obviously the pandemic's just in control of everything right now.
Yeah.
Totally. But my husband, as a use case, he got employed by a UK company from here, and he has spent the last few months setting up the business in Spain.
Yeah.
So he's working towards his Spanish employment contract and everything, and is now a director for the business. So everything Laura's just said, I'm like, oh yeah, Brendan did that. Oh yeah, he had to go find a notary and all these things.
Yeah.
And what it's made me appreciate is the difference between how it works in the UK and how it works in Spain. Because in the UK, when I registered my business and set up CEW Communications, it took me half an hour at the kitchen table and I was done.
Yeah.
In Spain, it's more complicated, which is why I think it's really important that if you do look at doing anything like that, you have got to work with local people who can support you and take you through this whole process, because there's lots of things that I was completely unaware of until we moved here.
And how daunting has the process been? Because I imagine it depends. I know self-employed people in general, and I count myself among them, are, they love the risk. They love the drama. That's part of the fun, right? But there will be people who are considering this thinking, gosh, that sounds monumental, especially this side of Brexit. How daunting was it for you? How daunting does it feel now to still be doing the research and considering the changes?
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little bit easier. I think the longer you've been here, the more of a network you develop around you. So I've got multiple friends here who are autonomo, or they have businesses here, or they've even invested in businesses here. So there's lots of people around that have that knowledge, and that helps a lot. So I think wherever you move, if you're able to find other immigrants like me that have moved here before, you can have a chat with them and see what might be needed. But when we first moved here, I was quite, not worried. To be honest, when we first moved here, we were just desperate to get this move done before Brexit happened. And we moved into the transition year. So when we moved out in September 2019, we basically had until the end of December to get ourselves registered here. And there's lots of different things that you have to do, and it all sounds like you need one before you can do the other, but there's loopholes. Mm-hmm. So, you need, for us, because we weren't coming here with Spanish jobs, and this was when, the UK was still part of the European Union, so it was a little bit easier. We needed to have a set amount of money in a bank account. We needed the bank account that was in Spain. We needed a registered place to live, and we needed to pay for health insurance, because if you're not earning here and you're not registered, you can't benefit from the equivalent of going to a GP. So you have to pay for everything privately. And then you have to go with all of this proof and sit down in front of someone and you don't speak the same language. Mm-hmm. So it was quite daunting. The attitude we had was, we want to make it work. And we were in a situation where effectively we can throw money at the problem. So let's just get this done quickly and go through at speed. And then we sort of relaxed. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah. Have you found the day-to-day administerial running of your business to be more or less difficult, or were you always fabulously organised in the UK?
So I've always done my own bookkeeping. It's quite useful that my husband is an accountant.
Oh, there we go.
So that helps. But he's not a Spanish accountant. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I'm still in the process of sorting all of this stuff out. Mm-hmm. So registering as autonomo, so self-employed. You pay X amount per month. And when you first register as autonomo, I think it starts at like €60 a month. And then it scales upwards to about €260 a month, I think. And it always confuses me as to exactly what that is, whether it's something that's being taken off of the end of the year tax bill that has to be paid, whether it's pension, whether it's just fees. I don't know. So this is what I'm sorting out at the moment. But what I will suggest is there's a company that I used to work with in the UK, and they've just set themselves up with a Spanish business as well. So it's an online service called Tax Scouts. And they've just launched Tax Scouts España. And basically for a small fee, they'll sort all of this stuff out for you. And I think if you're in a situation like me where you've got some stuff probably that you still need to do in the UK, and you're now looking at Spain, services like this might be a bit easier to navigate than I'm not doing it myself. I can tell you that much. I'm paying someone to do this
outsource it. That's fine.
Exactly.
And Cathy, what long-term goals? Do you think you'll be hiring? Do you think you'll be growing? Is that something that you'd want to do? Or do you think actually from a recruitment process, you're happy as you are? I mean, I know there's been a lot of change already in the last 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, so in the last year, I've gone from having a team of 4-5 people to being on my own again. And it's kind of nice for now because it's removed a lot of added stress that I carried for the first half of the pandemic. And I'm very grateful that I still had a company based in the UK, because from a staffing perspective, I was able to take advantage of the furlough scheme for a period of time. So it eased my crisis that was developing at the time. But now I'm enjoying having the freedom of working on my own. To be honest, for me right now, the best thing I can do for the kind of industry and the company that I have is just to work with other freelancers, because I don't think it makes sense for me to bring on full-time employees. And I'm a big believer in the changing way of work and the future of remote working and various different things. So I think that flexibility is really, really key. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know what the future will hold. I'm currently doing a course in something new so that I've got a different offering that I can use as well. So I start to branch out a little bit from comms. So it's just it's an explorative time. It's
great.
Nice.
And I'm interested to know, I mean, Cathy, being a female business owner in the tech space in the UK certainly has its challenges. Have you noticed any differences on that in Spain? Is there a gender imbalance in that industry? Have you found any challenges being a female entrepreneur, a female director, all of these things? I'm just interested to pick your brains.
Yeah, so I'm in a very good position here in Spain and in Barcelona particularly, because Barcelona and Madrid have both got very active tech scenes. And in terms of kind of comparing them to London, right, they're probably 10 years behind in terms of what's happening with capital, in terms of the number of businesses that are being created, but they're doing amazing things. There's lots of really exciting businesses here. You've got Glovo, they just raised 450 million euros, which is insane. It's the biggest round in Spain. So there's loads of exciting things going on. But what I've done is I've come to this growing community with 10 years experience of working in London. So I'm in a really great position where I'm meeting really interesting people, but I've got this expertise that I can lend them from what I've experienced on the other side. So I'm in a lucky spot. In terms of diversity, I actually don't know enough on this yet, but I would say probably in a similar situation to London-ish, or to the UK generally. It's an area I want to dive into more deeply, but pandemics, lockdowns, lack of events.
Sure. There's a couple of hurdles in the way.
There's a few hurdles, yeah. But it's a really exciting environment to be in from that point of view, in terms of what's going on with tech and the businesses that are growing.
Was there anything that intimidated, or you thought you were intimidated by, and then when you got round to it, it wasn't that bad?
Well, I think I'm still a bit intimidated is the honest answer. But the thing that I'm intimidated by, and it's something that I've got to work on over the next couple of years, it's my lack of language.
Right.
So my Spanish is better now than it was before I opened Duolingo 6 months before we planned to move to Spain. But that's the big limiting factor for me, because I'm still doing all of my work in English. I am not offering Spanish PR as a service. If I do, I'm more than likely going to work with a freelancer, someone it's first language too. And so the interactions I have on a daily basis where I have to speak Spanish are limited. So when I do have them, I look like a deer in headlights. I'm just like, can you speak slower, please? I'm sorry. I had a classic situation the other day, and I shared this with other friends here, and they just went, oh, I know exactly how I would feel in that, which is I was in a supermarket packing a bag, and I put 6 glass bottles of beer in my rucksack, and it fell on the floor in front of the cash register and smashed in front of a whole queue of people. And any Spanish I knew, gone. At that moment, panic just left my head. So basically, just, everyone heard a chorus of English swear words coming out of this woman.
And apologies.
And apologies. Lots of, I'm sorry, lo siento. And then running out of the shop and throwing my bag upside down to drain the beer from inside it. So for me, the language is an intimidating thing, but that's basically because I haven't put enough effort into it. And the other one we have here is obviously being Catalonia, we have Catalan. So when we first moved here, we had a month living in Badalona, which is just up the coast from Barcelona. And we stayed there while we tried to find somewhere to live. And it's far more Catalan than even some places in the center of Barcelona. So you suddenly go with this misconception of, all of that stuff I've just been teaching myself. Brilliant. I know all of these words. And you open up a menu and go, what's this?
There's the letter X. There's the letter X everywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, but I think you're totally right. And it's something that comes with time, right?
It
comes
is.
with time, and it comes with practice.
Yeah, so I would say to anyone coming out here, try and get as much of a kickstart as you can with Spanish in advance of coming to Barcelona, to Spain, but Barcelona is great, by the way. And then, just try and find someone locally who you can talk to regularly, which is what I'm doing as my next step. So I'm at least once a week going to have conversations to build up my confidence.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I have learned so much. Cathy, you're very inspirational. This is great. I hope people hear your story and want to do the same thing. So it's been really useful. Thank you.